Hi guys, welcome back to the Creating Gems podcast. I am back here in Australia and I'm super cozy right now, and I'm so excited basically just to share with you guys what the heck 2025 has been and what this mission has been, share with you some of my favorite stories, and basically just give you a debrief of what this year has been, because honestly I don't think I could have ever anticipated the craziness of this year, the adventures that have been had, the way this mission has been forwarded. And I just think that it is so stinking cool to think that this time last year I had no idea what was ahead, and look where we are now. And so just for those who don't know who I am, my name is Victoria Sinis, and basically this is a podcast or a video journal entry. I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what it is. Of me just taking you guys on this crazy radical journey of how I literally went from selling girls on OnlyFans to having a radical encounter with Jesus, which changed my life in 5 days. And basically a couple months after being saved, I got sent to America to talk about OnlyFans and the reality of this and expose underground agencies that literally I used to work for. And so this past year has been exactly that. I feel like I've spent more time in America than I have back home, and we have just been going hard on getting the message out there of what is OnlyFans and what are OnlyFans agencies. And so some of the biggest takeaways for me from this year, I have been touring and going around the country, speaking, being guests on podcasts, and just really trying to raise alarm bells, honestly, on this, because I have had so many crazy comments since coming into this world. I've had people in activism world tell me that they think that OnlyFans is the better option and that they would probably encourage girls to do OnlyFans more than they would mainstream porn. I've had Christians tell me that they thought that this was empowering and positive and liberating. And the main theme that I have seen in all of this is so many people say, well, I don't really know what it is. And that's the truth. The more I speak, the more I realize people have no idea what I'm talking about. People have no idea what OnlyFans is. They have no idea what OnlyFans agencies are. And people don't understand the gravity and the magnitude of this OnlyFans culture, how influential it is on a global scale, and how impactful it is. Not only for the girls that are doing OnlyFans, but for the men that subscribe to it, but then also on a cultural level, for the generations that are being impacted by this because of the way they're now being influenced to be desensitized to this, to think that this is normal, this is a desirable woman. And we are seeing across the globe just the destruction of relationships, of youth, of men and women. And it's just insane how big of an issue this OnlyFans stuff is. And honestly, we're just at the beginning of people understanding it and uncovering the reality of this. And so this year has been crazy. I had my second speaking tour in America at the start of the year, and that ended up turning into a 3-month trip there, which is crazy. And so I have a full debrief on that on this channel. It's literally called Me Exposing OnlyFans in America, and I take you through every state that I went to and just the crazy unexpected journeys that have happened there. But to give you an overview, I went and did that, and then from there I came back home for a little bit and then went back to America, to Nashville, to be able to film a docu-series with another friend who's just come out of OnlyFans, and then basically came home and was back over there again, touring and speaking about this. And some of the biggest key things that I see in this is that people, as I said, don't understand the reality of it, but then also it's so crazy how many people this touches. So on my most recent trip to America, I was in Michigan, this tiny little town called Burns Springs. I think that's how you say it. And people literally from Michigan, I've never even heard of this town. It's teeny tiny. And even people at this conference were like, wow, this makes so much sense. My niece posts really provocative content like this. I wonder if she does OnlyFans. It's piecing a lot of puzzle pieces together for me. I had another guy there be like, yeah, my friend is in OnlyFans. Again, the more I speak about this, the more people piece the puzzle pieces together and are like, yeah, I have friends that are in OnlyFans too. And I just think that it is crazy. Those statistics that came out that I read, that I believe that it's more than 4 million people and now content creators on OnlyFans. And still, out of that 4 million, only 300 make more than $1 million a year. The average wage of an OnlyFans creator is still $180 a month. So literally, you are making like $2,000 a year doing OnlyFans. It is not the glamorous lifestyle that people think it is, that you're gonna jump on and make millions. So, but that's for another episode. And we speak about this in depth as well. I have 2 videos about this, exposing OnlyFans underground agencies and the reality behind OnlyFans. So you can watch those for way more of a deeper dive and deeper context into what I'm talking about. But again, just to give you a really, really brief overview of this year, it's just been crazy to see, again, the lack of knowledge and the lack of education in activism world around OnlyFans and even digital exploitation. And it's just interesting how this is becoming a new phenomenon. And I was on a phone call actually this morning with a girl from America who told me she was with an FBI agent recently, and he was saying that women that are digitally exploited through things like OnlyFans have almost more trauma and are more kind of impacted than women that are physically exploited. And he said the reason for that is because these women are being exploited and there's no one in the room. And so a lot of these women that are being physically exploited, all they want is to be alone and to feel like they're in safety. But for these women that have been digitally exploited, well, feeling alone doesn't even feel safe for them, because there's been no one to physically exploit them, but they're still being used online. And so they're just so fragile. And I don't think people are putting together the severity of what OnlyFans is doing and the damage that it's doing to women and the damage that this exploitation is having. Because people think, I even had someone last week be like, well, these girls want to do it. And it's like, well, that's a whole conversation in itself of, is this consensual? Is it this really what they want to be doing when they're fed such a huge lie on what it actually is? And I even have friends that are currently in the industry that are terrified to leave because they're like, I don't know what else I'm going to do. And so this year has just been so mission focused on advocacy, getting this message out there, talking to organizations, explaining digital grooming, digital exploitation, digital, honestly, predators like I once was, and the severity and magnitude of this. So it's been a really, really crazy year. It's been a really heavy year. And even just seeing the way that sexual exploitation just it impacts so many different levels. I've been exposed to people that have been groomed and raised in pedophile rings by their own parents. There's doctors and police and judges and lawyers that are all involved in these things. I have been exposed to people that have been literally groomed and RIPED by men, and they're in their 50s and they're still traumatized by this. I've met friends that I've made friends with people that have done OnlyFans and were the pinnacle of success and have left it and are just struggling so deeply to move on from the consequences of that. And so it just goes to show that there is so many still unexposed elements to this. And I really do believe that this is literally the beginning of this work. It's the beginning of exposing this. And this is just like, the earliest phases I think we're going to see of people speaking out against OnlyFans, and it is becoming more and more mainstream, but specifically agencies. People are looking at OnlyFans now, but no one's still talking about OnlyFans agencies. And so I hope that this is going to continue to be a place where, if I have to repeat myself 1,000 times, we're going to talk about agencies, we're going to talk about the exploitation there. There's like millions of videos of men online talking about how to run agencies, how to manipulate girls into doing OnlyFans, how to trick them into doing porn. Like, this is a huge industry and people just aren't talking about this and exposing it. So yeah, it's just been a wild year of realizing the gravity of this, realizing how much work needs to be done in speaking about agencies, exposing agencies, talking about the reality of OnlyFans, and then just the greater generational cultural impact that it's having. And so yeah, that's a pretty intense wordful for you guys, but that's just the reality of what this is and what we're doing and what this mission is. And some stories that I'd love to share with you guys that have just been so impactful to me this year. And for people that still potentially think that pornography is a positive and that it doesn't really impact people, a story of when at the start of the year I was at Bethel Church in Redding, California. I was sitting next to this older gentleman, this English man, and we were chatting about visas and all the different things. And he had asked me if I'd like to get a coffee with him after the church service at the church coffee shop there. And he was like the cutest old man ever. So I was like, yeah, of course. He's probably like 70 years old. We sat down and we started speaking, and he was asking me a little bit more in depth of why am I here? What am I doing in America? And so I get to share obviously this testimony with him and talk about what I used to do and why I'm in the States now. And he proceeds to tell me that he watches pornography, but he was married for 50 years and his wife recently passed away, and he doesn't think that it's bad that he's watching this because all men have natural urges, and this is kind of when you open up that door. He was married for 50 years. How do you just close it? And he's giving me all these reasons why he's justifying that it's okay that he watches porn. But then he asked me, he goes, the way that those girls were being abused and manipulated and coerced where you worked at the agency, would that be happening to the same girls in, you know, the things that I'm watching? And I was like, yeah. And we got to speak about the reality of how these girls don't want to do this and how harmful this is and the reality of it. And I got to pray for him and we had this conversation, and that was it. And then I saw him a month later at church again. He had left and gone home and come back from, actually I think he crossed the Canadian border and then came, I don't know, I have no idea. But with his visa, he was allowed to do that. So anyways, he came back for this conference and he saw me. His entire countenance had changed. And he looked at me and he goes, Vic, you have no idea. Since that conversation we had, he goes, I stopped watching porn. I haven't watched it since. And he's like, I just realized how much it was blocking me. It was messing with me. I was believing lies. You know, it's helped me with the grief of my wife, like all these different things. And it was just like, it was so crazy. This was a totally new man that was in front of me, and he was just so different. And I was just like, wow, this goes to show that even porn affects people at these ages. We don't think about that, how this is harnessing men's loneliness. And he was talking about that, and it made him feel like he had a connection to something, but he's been able to just really heal and overcome obviously the grief of his wife because he stopped watching porn. I was like, that's crazy. And so I think that that's so impactful to show that this is so much deeper than what people think it is, and it impacts literally the generations. And then, yeah, some other crazy stories of this year, which I think are really important to emphasize the reality of this, is I was speaking at a youth event in Georgia, and I'm talking to all these, you know, maybe like 12 to 16 year olds, I would say is maybe the age variance. And I'm talking to them about Bob House and OnlyFans content and TikTok and the influence of it. And they all know all the influencers I'm talking about. They're well aware of everything. And you got the parents in the back and they're freaking out because they're like, I have no idea what this girl is talking about, what my kids do. That means I have no idea what my kids are consuming. And so at the end of this, I end up speaking with some young people after for hours. And it's like almost like midnight at this point, and I'm getting ready to leave. And this girl runs up to me. And just as I'm about to walk out the door, she goes, hey, excuse me, wait, can I ask you something? And I said, sure. She goes, how do you deal with the shame of what you did? And so we sat down and we kind of, you know, drew out that conversation a little bit more. And why was she asking that? And she proceeds to with tears in her eyes, tell me that she would watch Bob House content. She would watch these OnlyFans influencers, and it made her think that she then had to sexually go do things with boys that she didn't want to do, but she thought that's how she would be liked by him. And she regretted it so much, and she's dealing with so much shame and guilt, and how do I live with this? And these are the things that we don't think about when we try and shove sexual liberation down people's throats and say that we need to be sexually free women and this is empowering and it's positive and it's liberating. It's like, well, what about this young girl? Is that really positive and empowering? This sweet girl fell for the lies of culture that says that she should sexualize herself to be liked, and she went and did that and she hated herself for it. The amount of women that I know that will sleep with men to get them to like them will do these things and hate themselves after for it. And it's because this is a lie that is being softly influenced to us, hard influenced to us, honestly, not even softly, of what is a desirable woman and how a woman should be and how we should act. And it's ruining people. It's ruining women's lives. And if anyone has been a part of hookup culture, they can't tell me that it feels good. And so that's a side tangent in itself, but I think that really shows the two stark contrasts here of a man in his 70s watching porn and look at what it did to him, and then we have a girl who's in her early teens watches Bop House content and look what it does, and it still has the same impact of guilt and shame. And so I think that it's been really wonderful to be able to travel and get such a holistic perspective on this, and not just come from it from a singular of my experience, but be able to go out into the world and see how this impacts other people too. And the very real reality of this, I'm yet to meet someone that has done OnlyFans and has a positive thing to say about it. I'm yet to meet someone that consumes pornography and is super proud of it and says that they feel fantastic and that they have no shame. So I think that it's just been a really eye-opening year. Some other stories which have just deeply impacted me. So I was at a church in Miami called Antioch, and this church was basically at the entry point of this massive music festival. So hundreds of thousands of people were coming for this 3-day music festival, and the church literally was right at the front of it. It was crazy. And so this little church, it's like a teeny tiny, like fiery, like Acts church, like Book of Acts church. And if you don't know what that means, like look it up, because the Book of Acts is crazy. And there was this guy that was at the front of the church, and we had opened up the church for like worship and stuff. And so I went out to him and I started chatting with him, and this guy is like high as anything on ecstasy, eyes rolling in the back of his head, he's freaking out. And so I invite him to come in and just hang out. And for anyone who's been in those situations, you know, when you're super high and like you're overstimulated, it's like the craziest thing. So I brought him in, it's super quiet, super chill, and we're just chatting. End up chatting with this guy, and turns out that he does OnlyFans and all of these things. And we just got to have a beautiful, beautiful conversation. He was young, he was like 20 years old. I remember I'm praying for him, and this sweet boy stops me as I'm praying. And he goes, I don't want you to stop praying, but can you hold me while you pray for me? And he's just crying, and I was holding him and just praying for him. And it was just so beautiful, because it really emphasized that the reason why we do what we do isn't because we're trying to pet project people and all we want to do is convert people and we don't care about them. But this is so deeply personal and relational, and it really does change and impact people's lives when you get to sit with someone, listen to someone, have a conversation with someone, unconditionally love someone, and see them and let them know that they're seen, not only by you but by a God that loves them. And it was just one of the most beautiful moments. And so this entire year has just been so fantastic. It's been absolutely incredible. It's been so beautiful for the mission, and just really sweet moments of loving humans even more while we're doing this, even in the most craziest of circumstances. So I really hope that this has just been fun and interesting for you guys. And if there's any specific things that you want to know about this past year, any questions that you have, anything that you're curious about, leave it in the comments for me, and I'll do my best to be able to answer any of your questions that you have about this mission that we're on, what we're doing, what is the goal of this, whatever it is, even questions about OnlyFans, the porn industry, the sexual exploitation, digital exploitation, the list could go on. But write it in the comment, like this, subscribe to this, because 2026 is going to be such an insane year. I'm so excited to bring you guys along for it, and to continue to educate you guys, inform you guys, and bring you for this crazy journey that I'm on. So thank you guys so much, and I can't wait to see you for the next episode.